punches. Okay, how do you stand?
Like this. And with
1
this
foot
arm,
forward, 1 foot back.
Yep. With this arm right here, you're gonna want to bring this one back.
Got it.
Your hands are like this.
By your hip.
Yeah, and then
Switch hands. Okay. Couple of those.
Oh. That's a good stretch. I like this one.
And then do you have to switch your stance?
Yep.
Okay, switch your stance and do it on the other side.
good news, Mom.
What?
The plug to
The drum?
my drone.
Nice.
Yeah, it was in the junk drawer. It just didn't look hard enough.
Oh,
Like Dad found it.
cool.
Good morning, Merica McCoy.
Oh!
Okay, it's my turn. Nice job. Go have breakfast with your dad. I love you.
My plug to my drone.
All right. I'm going, can I mute you all still? I think I can. All right. Go ahead and start with your feet pointed straight ahead. Put your hands into prayer or somewhere on your body. Use that to bring you to the present moment, to find your breath, to show up for this hour for yourself. We are gonna talk about the spiral line of fascia that moves through your body today and how that pull from this line that goes all the way down, comes across your body, comes around your body like this and up to the side of your neck, and what that might do to your posture in terms of pulling you down and forward or weakening probably the backside from the opposite shoulder to the opposite hip. So if you were doing something like, let's say you drive a lot and your right arm is forward and that pulls your right shoulder forward, and your oblique muscles, the muscles that wrap around and are your twisting muscles, or your bracing muscles that restrict the amount of twist that happens. So maybe if they weren't working, you would walk kind of like this, but when they work and they act as a brake, then your opposite arm and opposite hand can move forward like they're supposed to, and the action of the oblique muscles help to work as brakes or stabilizers so that there's not excess rotation in your gait. So that also means that if you are down and forward and that has gotten to be a pattern that gets stuck in your body, that sometimes being able to find the butt muscle and the back of the shoulder to oppose the muscles that are pulling you into this position, that would help to create a more symmetrical, balanced position in your posture. So that line of pull that goes across your body is what we're going to work on today as we move through the exercises in class. So we're both going to go into those muscles and find them working, and we're also going to move out of those muscles and get the opposite to happen, so that if there's weakness or tightness somewhere, that can shift. So feet pointed straight ahead, hands into the golfer's grip, palms open, curl your fingers, and then bring your arms down by your sides, and then right up to your temples. Start with standing elbow curls as you go all the way together and all the way back. 20 times. Start to feel your feet on the floor. Feel the breath move into the width of your ribs, and then allow the shoulders to work as this hinge. all the way together and all the way back. Ten more. And release. Arms out to the side. And exhale over. Inhale, lift. Start to squeeze your inner thighs towards each other so that you're really stable at your base. And some of that spiral in your legs is becoming a brace so that there's not extra movement happening at the lower body right now when we're asking this upper body to move. Lengthen and over. Couple more. And then take your feet wider. Squeeze your feet towards each other and exhale over. Inhale up. You may put a slight bend in your knees. Hug your legs again into the midline and then open up all the way from the serratus muscle, this muscle that's underneath the pec, underneath the armpit, that helps to control the position of your scapula. Let that just all open right now. That's a muscle that you can see mostly on like very well developed but thin people, that you see the pec and then you see this muscle that's underneath the pec on the side. In lots of us, that muscle can be weak and it can change the way that the shoulder blades are able to stabilize. Wider with your feet one more time. Exhale over, inhale, lift. But we're going to work it a little bit today. And then back in, feet right underneath your hips, feet on the floor, feel them. Take a deep breath, find your butt muscles, open your arms up one more time. Feel both glutes a little bit active, pressing your feet into the floor to find muscles all the way up into the butt. Excellent. So now we're gonna explore this spiral line standing for a moment. So what I want you to do is bend down, and you're gonna go into a squat, push your hips back, keep this neutral spine, so slight arch in the low back, gentle rounding in the upper back. And then from that squat, I want you to bring this shoulder down towards the opposite knee. That means the oblique has to pull you across all the way into this side. This other side has to lengthen, and then open your arm to the sky. Now that back side is starting to work. And then release that arm, keeping your body stable in that squat. Take the other arm across to the knee. Find the muscles that pull you down and into flexion in the front. So there is a slight rounding, especially of the upper back. And then open it up. And continue to repeat it with your movement of your breath. So little squat, up, reach. Feel the muscles that pull you, this rib cage, down toward that hip bone. Oblique twist, and other side. In this squat, make sure your butt muscles are working. Good, one more. Excellent, and come down onto your hands and knees for cats and ducks. Now that spiral line also goes from the outside of the heel up to the inner knee to the outside of the hip. So it wraps kind of around your leg like that. So as you do this, even though you're directing the movement more into the core of your body because your knees are stable, see if you can even cultivate that rotation from the ankle up through the knee as you round your back up, and then sit bones go back and wide, that little spiral going backwards as you come down. Inner knee up to the outer hip at least, or maybe even from the heel into the knee into the outer hip, and then down, inner knee, outer hip that way. And up. Letting that little bit of rotation happen in the legs, working that same line of spiral fascia. Muscles that connect all the way. If you were to dissect a cadaver, that fascia would connect all the way from your feet to the back of your head through this line of muscles. Excellent. Now, come up to this lunge position. Let's go right foot forward, back leg coming back, and shrink your stance so that you feel comfortable. And then do your best to pull your hips to straight. So now we're starting to access this back side. So the opposite of what would be this rounding would be this expanded position where the glute and the back of this shoulder work, and the muscles across the back get to work in that back spiral. So what I want you to do is hold that lunge, square your hips, feel your back glute activate, and then reach this opposite arm up. Now root your tailbone down, pull the hips up, open it up, and feel this connection through the whole entire backside of your body. Now take both arms up and just hold that stability. Think of from the back inner heel up and around the leg, then to the butt, across your back, to the back of your right shoulder. That whole line of connection. And then step forward, switch sides, taking it back into a left foot forward lunge, right foot back. Square your hips, feel the glute. Press down through that heel, root that heel. That spiral line still working even here. And then taking that opposite arm up, thinking of this connection between the left shoulder and the right hip, opening that side. Take a minute, find your breath, find that connection. That means all the muscles in the front have to do some lengthening, and then reach the other arm up there, hold and breathe. And bringing it down, step forward. This time, right foot forward, left foot back. Take a bit bigger stance. We're going to go back into that front spiral a little bit. So from here, cross the left elbow over the right knee and bring your hands into a prayer position. And then think of this from the underneath arm of the armpit across the oblique through this front hip, that front spiral line working to pull you down and forward, and then hands together and press so that you're feeling this whole line contract. And breathe. It's okay if you're wobbly. If your hands stay in a prayer, that would be more stable. 3 deep breaths. Now on the back side, the back of that right shoulder and the back of that left hip are really having to work. That line is also coming into pull. And then come out of it, step forward, Switching sides. Left foot forward, right foot back, find that connection. Bend your body forward in a hip hinge, hands into prayer, elbow hooking across, and then let that rounding happen in your upper back and use those muscles across your belly, your obliques, to pull you into that twist. And breathe. And smile. Part of why we do this is because it's fun. Excellent. Bring your hands down, step back onto your mat again. Round and arch your back in cat-cow. Fingertips on the floor, finger pads between the thumb and the pinky, engaging. And down and up. Two more. And then just come down onto your belly. So what would be more common, do you think, that someone would be stuck kind of in this rounding or would be overly open? Probably stuck in that rounding. So let's do the opposite by going into our hand leg opposite lifts. So again, connecting the right shoulder and the left butt. And I want you to keep enough stability in your core that your belly can't just fall forward. That muscle that helps to hold the low belly and the rib cage in is working, the transverse abdominis. So you can find that again easily by imagining you're blowing through a straw and that's pulling those muscles in. So from your belly, then right arm, left leg, stable core, that's not moving, while this line, butt to the opposite shoulder, is working. And release. You can just leave your head on the floor for now if you want to relax your neck. Left butt, or right butt, left arm, and that whole line of fascia across your back. Open that up and release and switch. Lift. And lower. And lift. And lower. And lift. Hold. Big full breath, fully in, fully out. Imagining you're blowing through that straw, pulling your abdominals into a flatter position so that you get true hip extension. Again, lift. And lower. And then press up onto your hands and knees. We're going to do that same thing here. Right leg, left arm. Let's keep them both elbow bent and knee bent today. So as you stabilize at your core, use your obliques as a brake right now so that it's just holding you stable as you bring your leg up into a square and your arm up into a cactus arm. And think of, again, from the shoulder back to the glute and all the muscles that cross the back, stabilizing. And in the front, if you're doing this well, your rib cage will stay straight across and your hips will stay straight across and not drop down to one side. That's how we use those muscles like a brake or control the movement that they're doing. Good, switch sides. Lift and hold. Hold it up there, full breath. All the way out. Release your knee, release your arm. Pull it up, glute, hamstring, especially that outer hamstring, and shoulder. and release. And now I'm gonna let you go ahead and find this even more, because this line would pull the leg out like this if it was in an open kinetic chain and direct it into the core. So this time, let your knee come up and out to the side and let that leg do a little bit of a spiral as your arm comes up. Glute should really be active there. Outer hamstring, see if you can find that. Back of the shoulder. And release it down. Other side, bring the knee up, let the leg rotate out to the side, find that outer hamstring. And back of the shoulder, nothing else moving. Full breath. And release it down. And then have a seat on the floor. Awesome. Move into a sitting floor twist. You can decide if you want just one leg extended or you want to pull one underneath you, your choice. Let's go left leg crossing over, right leg going underneath. Sit really tall. Take that left hand behind you. Now, a little bit of an arch in your lower back, so pull your belly up. That's gonna pull on the hip muscles a lot. But in this front line, I want you to go ahead and use that spiral line. So that brings your shoulder closer to your hip and also rounds your body. So often we say sit as tall as you can. But right now, I want you to go ahead and let the muscles in the trunk squeeze rib cage towards your pelvis, towards your hip bone, and let your upper back go ahead and round. We're gonna hold this for about a minute. I want you to just hang in there. Now, one side is contracting, the other side is having to lengthen on the back side of your body here a little bit. So squeeze, and you can see how that can pull into this forward twisting rotation. Big breaths. And then take it up, and just to counterpose it a little bit, reach that arm way up and out on the side, find the back of that shoulder, and release. Switch your legs. Right crossing over left, left hugging under. Right hand behind you. And if you notice your hips are tight here, just breathe into that for a moment. Find some length. And then this left arm crossing over. Find from the underneath of the armpit at the rib cage down to the opposite hip. So little arch in the low back to start, but then let your upper back go ahead and round over like cat pose. And let the ribs pull you down, and notice just how is it different from one side to the other. Can you effectively find these twisting muscles in your body to do that line of pull from the ribs to the opposite hip? Can you actually feel that there's a line of muscle, that oblique muscle that's pulling you into that contraction, into that twist? And maybe if you do it well, you shift how it's happening through the rest of that line somewhere else in your body. Like maybe it was tight in your trunk or tight in your back, and as that lets go, it moves down to the hip. Or maybe it's up in your neck and you feel it all the way up here. That line goes all the way up to the base of your head. and untwist. And again, counterpose that a little bit by just opening that arm to the back, and then extend both legs out on the floor. Sitting femur rotations, hands behind you. So now we're going to use this part as a break so it doesn't move. Collarbones wide. Think of what's happening in this serratus muscle right here on the side as you just put your arms down. As you press down into the floor, that muscle can activate a little bit with the lat, the muscles that pull it down like this, to help stabilize the shoulder blade so that you can direct the movement into your legs. Tight thighs, going out and in. So this spiral line now that comes from the back around like this, across your body, then around your hips, underneath, and to around the legs, is working in this open kinetic chain. So we're directing the rotation into the core of your body because your feet are free. Or there's more movement in the periphery, really, I could say. There's more movement to the outside. And take your feet wider. Out and in, 10 more rotations. From the hip all the way down, finding that in and out. Balancing your pelvis, balancing your leg bones. And wider once more, taking it out and in. Nice. Then take it all the way out, as wide as your legs will go comfortably. And then hook your left hand underneath your left leg and take it up and over. Thighs tight. Now, this is a little bit less of this spiral. I suppose let's make it a spiral since we're doing that today. So come across your body, shoulder to the hip, and grab the outside of that leg or your foot somewhere, and let that contraction happen in the front again through the obliques so that you're getting that big twist. Hold, allow it to open. Thighs tight, thighs pressing down into the floor. Inhale, come up, open your arms, second side, twisting, shoulder to opposite hip, pulling through the whole underneath side of your body into the oblique. Find those twisters. Do you have one side that works better than the other? I sure do. Muscles can be in all kind of combinations. They can be short and weak, or short and tight, or long and weak, or long and tight. There's all kinds of ways that they can create an imbalance or a movement pattern that isn't optimal. And that can lead to lack of function or to pain, or just adaptations that are less comfortable. Come on up, other side again, taking it over. Let's make this a little more active move with each breath. Inhale, take it up big and wide. Exhale, cross the body. Feel that as you go, that rotation in your trunk and how it can move all the way down and around that bottom leg. Come on up and over. And up and over. And then bring your legs in. Grab your block and your strap for some hip stability. You need a belt or a yoga strap and a block. Now we're gonna close this chain. So we're gonna move into your lower leg and close that chain by keeping the feet on the ground. So that's gonna direct the rotation more into the pelvis. Put your strap around your knees and then make it about fist width apart. Okay, so as you think of this line from your back, coming down across your back, around your front, around your legs, we're gonna use that line in our double-double today. We're gonna use our obliques and our transverse abdominis to keep the trunk still while we do this action. So first I want you to push out against the strap, squeeze in at your ankles, and just feel that little bit of rotation occur at the level of your pelvis. You should have a slight curve in your low back. You should feel your shoulders, collarbones wide, shoulders tuck underneath you, coming into neutral in your upper body. And then continue with that, out at the knees, in at the ankles, and release. Out at the knees, in at the ankles, release. Out, in, release. Keep going, thinking of that little bit of spirally rotation. Held pretty stable at the lower legs, directed up into the rotation deep in the pelvis. Okay, now really keep this stable. Keep the strap pressing out and the block pressed in, and then use your obliques as a break and your transverse abdominis while you lift your legs up off the floor and then bring them back down. 10 lifts. Nothing else moving except your legs. And then release. This time bring your legs up into a table. Now we're going to move opposite shoulder toward opposite knee, oblique twist, exhale up, inhale lower. Switch sides, exhale up, inhale lower, moving the underneath of the armpit towards the knee, feeling those twisting muscles in your trunk. Release. Lift. Release. Lift. Release. Lift. Release. Awesome. Now take your knees all the way over. So now we're going to lengthen this line. Knees and hips still stable. Holding that block and strap if it's comfortable enough for you. Looking straight up at the ceiling. Crunch straight up. So now we're getting a little bit of that oblique plus the rectus abdominis pulling you up into flexion and back down. 10 crunches. Exhale up. Inhale to lower. Nice. Lift. Over to the other side. Over. Arms looking up to the ceiling. Just notice how well you twist, or if there's something that wants to stop you. If you had a manual therapist, they could get in there and open all this up with their fingers or into your back. Then lift and lower. Exhaling up, squeeze. Inhale, lower. Do you notice if one side feels weaker? Remember I said you could have short and weak, or short and tight, or long and weak, or long and tight. Any combinations. Back to neutral. Go ahead and switch the block and the strap. So now the rotation is going to go the other direction a little bit. Go out at the ankles, in at the knees. Directed again, that micro rotation up into the hip bones and pelvis. Everything else just works to stabilize at your trunk. Do about 20. Out at the ankles, in at the knees, release. Out at the ankles, in at the knees. That inward spiral happening there. About 10 more. Ten lifts, break here, nothing moves. Lift and lower your feet about 6 inches off the floor. Then hold them up there. Hands behind you, right shoulder to opposite knee. Lift, pull, crunch, and release. Let's do that same side 10 times. And then switch. Again, underneath of your armpit, at the rib cage, across to the hip bone. Exhaling as you come up and release. Then bring your legs up, take them all the way over, knees and hips stack, upper body opening. So now we're lengthening this and then asking it to contract from this all the way, fully lengthened position. Exhale up, just straight up to the sky. So a little less of a twist. Crunch. And other side, up and over. Maybe this time it's a little better. Squeeze. Last 10. And back to neutral. Both feet on the floor. Let's do rocking chair, up on your toes, back on your heels. All the way from the base of your feet into your knees and your hips, hoping that's all more stable, more symmetrical, can move. Big toes really pressing down, that arch across your toes working. Awesome. Take your block and your strap away. Set them to the side. And come on to a plank position. Plank on your elbows. So now that we've worked all of that, we can use those stabilizers really well. I'm going to have you push up into this plank on your elbows. And this may be enough for you. This planks are work for those muscles. If it feels fine for you, rotate up to one side Now we're stabilizing here, shoulder to hip, and then back to center. Rotate to the other side and open up that shoulder. Center and lift. And center and lift. Center, lift. One more. Cat-cow once more. Round and arch. And then opposite arm, opposite leg. So I'm going to reach my right leg up with my left hand. So that would be that big spiral line. I'm going to keep enough stability in my core that my back isn't just arching huge. So pull your belly up and in, and then go ahead and lift. Think of back of the shoulder to the butt, across your back. Hold and breathe. Now that knee is going to want to flare out right now. You can go ahead and let it do that if it feels appropriate. Find that glute, that outer hamstring part of that line, and then squeeze that inner thigh back down and up so you bring balance to that leg. Release. Switch sides. Take it up. Reach back, grab your foot. Stabilize at your trunk, and then hamstring, glute, back of the shoulder. That knee can go out to find it, find your oblique, and then bring it back to square. Open that shoulder a little more. Hold and breathe. And release it down. Awesome. Downward facing dog pose. Tuck your toes. Press it up and back. Allowing your shoulders to slide toward your ears a bit. The muscles to hug the shoulder blade toward your armpit in balanced action with how it wants to lift up and away from the floor. Find your breath fully in, fully out. Look forward between your hands. Come into a lunge, right foot forward, sending that left foot back so it's parallel to the short edge of your mat. Take it up. Side angle pose, hand to your knee or hand to the floor, and think of this spiral line happening now, all the way from that bottom of your heel, up your leg, through your trunk, into your body, into your arm. You can do more of it if you want to create some kind of a bind that is both the front and the back working together, or you can just stay here and open it up. Your choice. Coming up, switching sides, feet coming in and out, bending into that square, front forearm to your knee, hand to the sky. From this top shoulder back to that bottom butt muscle, working across your back. Again, reaching under and grabbing on if you want to have some kind of a bind here. And coming up, both feet to the front and just down and up. Opening up your legs. getting into those leg muscles a little bit again. Couple times. And when it feels like they're nice and open, reach to the floor. You can pull your body down closer to the floor. Feel those hamstrings, especially that outer hamstring that we worked a little bit. And then use your hip hinge, find your butt muscles, hold down, and come up to standing. Let's do one more balance using this big spiral line today before we lie down into our Shavasana. You may want your chair just so you feel ease and safe. So hand to the block or the chair or not. You could do this free here. Make your arms like an airplane and then find the backside of this muscle, the stability between this shoulder and this butt, and work it as you pull that closer together and then open it up and come back to square and then open it up again. Hip opening, butt muscle working, the back side of your left shoulder and your right hip coming closer together in that big spiral, and then down back to neutral. Again, you can totally do this with no support or have a lot of support, doesn't really matter right now. Focus on that back side of your body. If it's harder to focus on that back side without support, then add the support so that you can let your mind stay focused on this connection. One more time. Good. The obliques are working. They're stabilizing a lot right now. Back to the center and switch your legs. Second side. Foot on the floor, hand to the chair or bench. And then open that backside connection, butt muscle into shoulder. Now you could do this and let your belly really hang out, or you can cue that transverse abdominis to hug in, pull the ribs in and your low belly in, and have a lot more stability there. And then still find this glute and this back shoulder. Down and up. And down and up. And release. Just come to standing. Check out your balance for a moment. Check out your alignment. See how it feels. Hopefully you have more stability, more freedom, but like it's all working like it's supposed to when it's supposed to. All right, go ahead and lie down, legs over your block or out straight on the floor. Just get comfortable. So I want you to just tune into your own breathing for a moment. And I had felt like a pretty profound aha moment. So I'm going to see if I can share that a little bit with you, or that you can get in touch with that. But one of the things that I got to was the voice in your head, the brain stem, or the thing that tells you to eat or to breathe, uses your own voice. It's the same voice that's in your head. So I want to introduce you to that voice so that you can just start to be in touch with it. But it also means that you can ask it to quiet down or something when you want. So breathe normally. And then I'm going to ask you to hold your breath. And as if I were going to ask you to hold your breath for 2 minutes. And I want you to notice when the voice in your head starts to talk to you and say, it's not going to matter if you breathe. You should just breathe. It's totally fine if you just breathe. So I want you to just hear that voice that is undisciplined in most of our heads, but that shows up when you ask it to do something like that, just to become more familiar with that voice. So go ahead and try that. Think of holding your breath for 2 minutes, and then just listen to when it says, okay, you really need to breathe. And please do really breathe when that voice gets loud enough. Don't pass out on me. Big breath and hold. Okay. Did you start to hear that voice? Yeah. Okay, it's time to breathe, but it uses the same voice that you're used to hearing in your own head. So that voice that has chatter all the time actually is often ruled by functions of your body. But when you recognize it as that voice, you can have a dialogue with that voice, or an awareness of that voice that's not necessarily just subject to doing whatever it's telling you to do, or believing whatever it's telling you to believe. And I think when we talk about meditation and having this relationship as a witness to that voice, that is part of what we're doing, so that we can quiet it or notice it or have an awareness of it. And that also lets us shift then out of a fight or flight. If your body's saying, you need to breathe, you need to breathe, you need to breathe, that's definitely a fight or flight kind of thing. And being able to shift out of that to, okay, I'm going to take care of you, I'm going to breathe. Or even I'm choosing not to listen to you, and I'm choosing to listen to the space in between. So find that for a moment, breathe normally. Notice if a thought arises, like I need to breathe, or like I need to do something else, and just have an awareness of that dialogue that's happening all the time in your head. Okay, I'm going to bring you back around so that you can check in before we say goodbye.